I didn't renew my lease and now my boyfriend's family is facing eviction. I 27F have been with my boyfriend, Mark 29M, for over a year. We moved in together about 5 months into the relationship, and for a long time, things were genuinely good. We communicated well, split bills, and our apartment felt safe and peaceful. I've always considered myself a patient person, someone who tries to be understanding before reacting. That patience is why I agreed to what came next. About a year and 2 months into our relationship, Mark's family went through a tragedy. Their childhood home caught fire and was completely destroyed, leaving them homeless overnight. Mark was devastated. Later, he came to me to talk. His mother had reached out to him asking if he could help temporarily accommodate them. He explained that our apartment couldn't house an extra for adults and to children. He then remembered that the apartment next door was still vacant and spacious enough for them. However, his parents' finances weren't enough to cover the down payment and rent. He asked if I would be okay with him helping them and redirecting his share of our household expenses toward their needs. I was hesitant at first, but he stressed that this would be short-term only while they dealt with insurance and figured out their next steps. Because it was an emergency, and because I didn't want to be the kind of person who says no in a crisis, I agreed. Our apartment was originally leased under my name. When Mark and I moved in together, he was added to the lease. Our landlord has known me longer and trusts me because I always pay on time and have never given him any trouble as a tenant. I accompanied Mark and spoke to the landlord myself. He agreed to allow a short-term lease for Mark's family because we were good tenants and explained the situation honestly. He trusted us to make sure everything would go smoothly and that this arrangement was temporary. Moving day was chaos. To help them save money, we even moved furniture from our own apartment into theirs. The people moving in were Mark's parents, his sister Tina, her partner Ted, and their 2 toddlers. After a full day of lifting, organizing, and cleaning, I went back to our apartment completely exhausted and passed out immediately. The very next day, I was dragged to the supermarket to buy groceries and household essentials. I assumed this was a one-time thing to help them settle in. At first, I told myself to be patient. The first few weeks were filled with constant calls, knocking, and requests. I understood they were traumatized, displaced, and trying to adjust, so I let things slide. But weeks turned into a month, and my patience started wearing thin. I began noticing that groceries in my apartment were disappearing. Food that should have lasted a week was gone into days. My seasonings, condiments, snacks, and toiletries kept going missing. I'd come home from work ready to cook, only to find ingredients gone. It was upsetting and frustrating, especially because I then had to go to a nearby convenience store just to replace basic seasonings after already being exhausted from work. Then my personal items started disappearing, my clothes and other belongings. When I visited or was asked to help at my boyfriend's parents' apartment, I would see my things there, including my clothes being casually worn by my boyfriend's sister like it was no big deal. I later found out why this kept happening. Mark had given his family a spare key to our apartment without telling me. That discovery led to a massive fight. I felt violated. I felt like my privacy didn't matter. Mark brushed it off, saying they were family and that it was just for convenience. Nothing changed. During this time, Mark was spending more and more of his time and money helping his family, which I emotionally understood. Per our agreement, I paid for our groceries, utilities, and household supplies. This was on top of the monthly allowance I send to my own parents, so my budget was already tight. With the constant need to replace missing food and essentials, I was stretched to my limit. I even started hiding snacks in our bedroom because it was the only way I could be sure they wouldn't disappear. Then came the final straw. I would come home from work exhausted, only to find the toddlers already in our apartment, dumped there without warning, so I could babysit while their parents did other things. No asking, no heads up. Just the assumption that I would take care of them. Between the financial stress, constantly missing belongings, and being turned into an unpaid babysitter in my own home, my patience finally ran out. When our landlord reminded us about the upcoming lease renewal, I told Mark I wasn't comfortable renewing under these circumstances. He convinced me to reconsider, promising things would get better and that his family just needed more time. I said I would think about it. Another month passed. Nothing improved. Same routine, same missing items, same financial strain, same lack of boundaries. So when the renewal deadline arrived, I made the decision not to renew the lease. I didn't tell Mark. He was confident I would renew and never checked. Because I didn't renew our lease, The landlord refused to extend his family's short-term lease next door. Now, they're facing eviction. Mark is furious. He says I blindsided him and abandoned his family during the worst moment of their lives. His family thinks I'm cold, selfish, and heartless. Mark says this is what sacrifice looks like in a relationship. I feel awful about the situation, but I also feel like I was slowly being drained financially, emotionally, and mentally, with no respect for my boundaries and no end in sight. So, am I the a-hole?